Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Haixin Duan, a professor from Tsinghua University. Before my talk, a little background of myself. Maybe recently, I am one of the most famous white hacker in mainland China after I gave a talk in a popular TV program in CCTV, in China Central TV, or white hacker or ethical hacker. But today, I'm in black hat. So some of my colleagues are confused. Are you really a white hacker or black hat hacker or just so-called gray hat? Yes, we do. We really do many offensive research, but we publish all our discovery or attacks or vulnerabilities. Before we disclose the attack or vulnerabilities to the public, we always notify the impact vendors or service providers in advance, and hopefully we can help them to fix the vulnerabilities. That's a common sentence in Chinese: unknown offense, no defense. That means if we don't know the offense, there will be no defense. I believe that the best way to defend against attack is to know the threat and to be prepared. Okay, next I will introduce a new type of attack, DDoS attack by DNS, coordinating DNS resolvers and queries into a potent DDoS amplifiers. We name it TsuKing. DNS as a DDoS attack, a tool, is not new. The attacker just sent a few DNS queries to the DNS server, spoofing the address of the target. And then the DNS server will reply to the responses to the target, right? For the known attacks, as I know, they try to maximize the amplification potential of a single DNS server. And this attack is also limited by IP address spoofing, because many networks have already deployed source IP address validation. And if the attacker wants more traffic to the target, he should send more queries to more servers in parallel. So the amplification factor is not changed. It will occupy some traffic of the attackers. But our TsuKing is different. The attacker can coordinate DNS servers layer by layer, and the amplification factors multiply with more layers. So if we need more traffic, he can just cascade more servers. The amount of the traffic sent from the attacker remains very low. So additionally, the attacker does not require to spoof any IP address. Okay, sounds good. But what is TsuKing? This is a word I coined by combining Tsunami and King, which stands for two important components of our attack. The first part, Tsunami, refers to the traffic amplification ability by DNS resolvers. Because of the complex infrastructure and the bogus DNS software amplification, The second part, king, is actually a pawn. This term, king, was used in an academic paper 20 years ago. In that paper, the king is an authority name server. It was used to measure the latency between any two IP addresses. In our attack, the king is also a name server owned by the attacker. As powerful as the king, the name server can direct DDoS traffic to any IP address. And we can achieve the amplification factor over 3,000. That is, we send one query, it will be turned into 3,000. A little background about DNS. How recursive resolver find the right server step by step. The key concept is referral. When an authority server does not know the answer, it will provide some referrals pointing to other name servers. For example, when the recursive resolver asks the root server, where is web.org, the server replies, I don't know. But here are some referrals. Maybe they can give you the more closer answer. So the resolver will follow the referrals and send query to the top-level domain. Again, it gets more referrals. And finally, following the referrals, the resolver will get the right answer from the authority name server. So during the whole resolution process, the resolver is guarded by referrals, right? Now, the attack comes. Here's the threat model of TsuKing. The attacker sent a DNS query to an recursive resolver for his own domain name. Following the referrals, the resolver will finally ask the authority name server, controlled by himself. We called it the king. Instead of a final answer, the king replies with some other referrals. That is the target. So accordingly, the resolver will send a DNS query to the target, right? Sounds very simple. But where does the Tsunami come from? Or why the recursive resolver amplify DNS queries? In our textbook about computer networks, the DNS resolver is only a single computer, right? But in the real world, the DNS resolver has become to a complex infrastructure, including forwarders, cache servers, recursive resolvers running on a variety of devices, include maybe Wi-Fi routers. Right? So according to a paper published in a Merriman conference, RMC, there are still some hidden layers of servers in the provider's infrastructure. So some other large public DNS services, like called A, called Duan, also are on the rise. The internal infrastructure is often very complex with many layers of servers, right? According to census, there are millions of open resolvers who take DNS queries publicly. Maybe some of them just forward these queries to the public resolver like called A. So in the real world, a typical DNS resolving process might look like this. The DNS client, a laptop or smartphone, issues a DNS query. This query will first reach maybe the Wi-Fi router, right? And the Wi-Fi router is just a forward. The query will be forwarded to the server provided by ISP. But this server probably is also a forwarder. So the query will travel through many layers of DNS servers and finally reach the real recursive resolver who contacts the authority name server and gets the right answer. So in this part, we found both servers which we can observe from the outside. The ingress server are public facing who take DNS queries, and egress servers are those who contact the authority named servers. So we can define a DNS resolver system, DRS, including the public-facing DNS server, together with anything between it and the authority name server. To make it easy to remember, we called it doctors. So a doctors is a black box. The query is sent from the ingress server and comes from the egress server. What happened inside, we don't care. All right, that's all for the background. We know DNS resolver is actually a complex system, but where does the power or amplification come from? The answer might be surprising. The retry DNS queries upon failure. Now, DNS query might fail on a variety of reasons, right? For example, packet loss, server fail, routing problems, and etc. So, for most popular software, DNS software, we will retry the same query for a few more times. For example, band version 9 will retry 13 times. It sounds reasonable, right? When we look at doctors, DNS resolver systems, if a query fails, the doctors may retry from different egress server. In other words, when egress number 1 failed, egress number 2 will repeat the failure again. That is, they don't share the cache for the negative result. So we will see that this behavior actually benefits the attackers. But wait, just exploring retries for amplification, that's not a tsunami, maybe just a ripple. How can the modest retries form an attack? Maybe you cannot believe how aggressive some resolvers retry because of bogus implementation. We collected 1.3 million doctors. Among them, over 500 will retry more than 1,000 times. So the largest number of the requests by one doctor is over 100,000. So some doctors themselves are already powerful enough to cause amplification DDoS attack. So we call this basic attack as variant 1, DNS retry. And we evaluate this attack in the real world. We selected 10 real doctors that retry over 1,000 times. By simply sending one query per second, we can yield 100 times more traffic on the victim, our own server. So the DNS retry variant is simple and straightforward. But for most other servers, the mode is not aggressive enough at all. So their retries can only make some lovely repos, right? Let's change these repos into great big waves, okay? We can cascade them, the resolvers together. We call this attack variant DNS chain. The attacker first query doctors number 1, and by referral, the DNS1 is diverted to DNS2A. Note that this query is deemed to fail, as the attacker has no intention to provide the right answer, right? So doctors number 1 will start to retry and again ask the king. This time, the king tells it to ask somebody else. This time, doctors 2B. What happened at doctors 2A? When it gets a query from doctor 1, it will repeat the same story, and it will be diverted to other different servers, doctors 3A, 3B, 3C. So this story continues repeated again and again. The chain can be extended further. So finally, when the attacker feels good enough, it can simply offer the final referral pointing to the victim. Although the power of a single doctor is modest, the impact of the chain can be significant because the amplification factors multiplies among these layers, right? So this is our second attack, DNS chain. Seems better than DNS retry, but how many doctors can be abused? Yes, not all of the resolvers are vulnerable. There are conditions. The chain attacks should not succeed if all resolvers comply the current DNS standard. There is a particular flag bit in DNS message header RD. RD means recursive designed. If the resolver got a DNS query with a RD flag cleared or 0, the resolver will not perform the recursive query. It will reply immediately from the cache. Unfortunately, more than a quarter of doctors we tested don't honor the ID flag. The second condition is that some doctors have not deployed negative cache, which can prevent retries on failure. Although negative cache has been proposed for over 20 years, we find over 40% have not deployed. And finally, the third condition, the resolvers which can be exploited should have multiple egress servers. We found over half of the doctors have 10 egress servers or more. So this structure makes our attack more powerful. The more egress server, the better. So again, we evaluate the attack using the vulnerable doctors to attack the victim controlled by ourselves. By cascading 7 layers of servers, we can amplify one query to over 3,000 queries. Now, we can make a chain. How about a DNS loop? So it's easy. Just put the final referrals to the initial doctors. In this attack, all servers in the loop are victims. The goal is to exhaust the resources of the doctors themselves. So after the attacker finishes the construction of the loop, he can send only one query, a drop of the water to trigger the loop. Sounds good, but how long can the loop last? We evaluated the attack in a controlled environment. We chose 7 layers of doctors from the real network, but the layer 0 is our own server. We set a rate limit to 1 packet per second. So when we then send only 1 packet to layer 0, and then we can saw the loop continues for over 24 hours until we manually stopped it. Okay, so much for the attacks. Let's discuss the defense or mitigations. We suggest that all DNS implementations should avoid aggressive retries on query failures. And the best practice of DNS standard should be followed, particularly honoring the RD flag bit, and to deploy negative caching for not only performance considerations, but also for protection. And we reported the problems to all impacted DNS vendors or service providers we tested. Fortunately, most of them confirmed the problem, and some of them have fixed the problem. And we appreciate their cooperation and active response. Through Black Hat today, we hope all other DNS vendors and providers to be aware of this attack and also deploy defense against this attack TsuKing. That's all for my talk today. For more details, welcome to our website, just TsuKing.net, for our paper and the tools. And thank you for your listening, and I'm very happy to take any questions. Thank you.